Howdy, everyone. This is Sharon D. Brown, the host of Self Care You podcast. And so, this podcast is the intersection of self care, advocacy, and compassion for self caregivers. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And so, with this episode, it's me. And what I really want to talk about, and you heard me talk about it before, and I just don't think we can get enough of it is why self care you? It's like, why not? Why not self care you? And so you've heard on previous episodes of why self care is so important, of how I got started, of the different paths that it has taken. And just know that self care is the destination and it is the journey. And I want you to know that, with self care, it is much easier than you think. People are like, oh, I don't have time for it, and things like that. And I can understand sometimes when you're super focused on something, but always take time for you. And so, in saying that, why not live the healthiest and the best life that you can? And to be honest, there's no way around it. That's one thing that I have figured out and had discovered. And I see when you really hear other people's story, everything comes back to them. And so when we neglect ourselves, when we're so focused on helping others and do not pour into us, we are, how they say, we go from you pour from the overflow. When we're so much pouring into others, in that we are really pouring out. We think we're pouring into others, we're pouring out of ourselves, but we're emptying our own cup. And so, why not self care in being healthy in a way that you may not have even thought that you can be healthy in, to have conversations with yourself that you may not be able to have conversations with. You're the only one who can change the negative self talk, even though there may be triggers from the outside world, but a lot of times the triggers come from within. Now, remember the four pillars of self care, self awareness, which is the biggest part. It's self reflection, intro. It's just, there's so much until I can't even say it. It's self-reflection, I'm about to say introversion, introspection, and just us really looking. And I'm pausing here because so many things are going through my mind right now. I think that's why my words I kind of got a little twisted there. But one thing that I can say, that's the thing, is that when we stop for a moment and just say, hey, what is this? Why are my words jumping up? Why am I making this decision? Why am I making these choices? Why am I succumbing to these things? Even though you can go to a therapist, but even then, in that moment, it's still you. It's still you being able to grasp what that person is saying. But the biggest therapist, the main therapist is you. The main caregiver is you. And so why not self-care? You know? Why not self-care? Because one thing that I can say is that when you do not purposely, intentionally take care of yourself, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and even financially, everything will come back upside down. It really will. If we do not address our own selves, and let me say this too, in that when you do not, when you're not intentional about looking at yourself for the best of you and even for the worst of you. I know nobody wants to do that, but there's parts of ourselves that I've said it before that we hide from ourselves. I mean, I've had an experience, and I'm even still now to this day, I'm still like, what in the world was that? But at the end of the day, what was it to teach me about myself? What's the magnificent parts that I was able to gain out of that? And what's the parts of me that still need nurturing? What's the parts of me that if I did succumb to something, what was that? Because usually when we succumb to something, it's something deep within you that you felt like, I'm not going to even say that you felt like because it's not conscious, because one thing I realized is that we can verbally say, oh, I didn't get this when I was growing up, or my mom this, or my dad that. And we can acknowledge that, and that's okay. But I don't think that you really know how much of an impact it truly has on you, that it is the driving force. It's almost like we can have a whole lot of wonderful things, but those things that we didn't get, those things that were neglected, and sometimes when it comes to our parents, it's not even a purposeful neglectful. Because I even have come to a realization how much my mom loved me and my brother because she worked so hard. And you have to also remember the era of where that came from, having a roof over your head and food in your stomach, you know? But in that era, when parents worked two jobs, sometimes three, I'm just saying that in general. But when that happens, even though, they try to spend as much as time with you, but most of the time they're tired. And I think that's why in this generation who experienced that, they're more likely to try not to have that second job. But even if they do, they try their best. And it's not even they're trying their best. You are, it's not that you're just trying your best, that you are taking the time with your children. But it's saying all of that to say in that era when parents did work really hard, for us, your parents working hard for you, that a side effect of that, again, it's not intentional, it's a side of neglect. Then the side of that of it is abandonment. Again, it's not intentional. But once you recognize that, then you can reparent yourselves. And then, even with the best parents doing all the things that they know to do, maybe because they didn't get what they're doing all the things that they want to do. They're doing all the things that they didn't get and wish that they had, and you're doing the same thing. And even with that, even though you're the best parents, but you're still not going to be able to give your children everything that they need, because there's just parts of us that's kind of like how we interpret things, how we may even project things, how we see things, how we see life. And someone can say something and it may impact you in a certain way. So you're not going to be able to touch everything. This is why self-care matters. This is why self-care is essential. It is essential because it helps you to get in touch with yourself. It helps you to heal. But not only that, it allows you to dream and be bigger, to level up. That's really the main purpose of it, so that we will not be stuck in where you are. And so, why not self care? Why not take the time to invest in yourself and learn about yourself? One thing that I can say is that, especially when I'm in groups, especially when I'm in community, in that's where I learned about myself the most. When I started listening to podcasts, I know YouTube had been out there for a while. It's like, oh no, I got to protect my mind. I got to protect my mind. I don't want anything to get inside my mind. But if you don't feed your mind, then what you do see and hear still gets you. Because if you're not feeding your mind to be even something bigger and better, you may be here. That's to say, you're a little above average, but you would stay stuck there. Even though there are magnificent things happening to you, for you, through you, but you really won't be able to go beyond that, and then go beyond that, and then go beyond that. This is why. So why not self-care? To truly be the best version of yourself. And for those of you who have, children, I hear it a lot. I go to the moon and back. But then some of you, to be honest, we're not going around the corner to lift a weight. Let me see. Oh no. Ugh. Thought I had some weights. I got something though. They're not weights. Or to squeeze something. I don't know if you can see this. Make a game out of it, especially for you all who have young children. Make a game out of it. And so this is a great time for our sponsor here.
Ready to take your grooming to the next level? Our bald head shave, beard wash, and head massage package is the ultimate experience. Our skilled barbers will give you a fresh new look and a relaxing head massage that will leave you feeling revitalized, refreshed, and sharp. Don't settle for less. Book your appointment today and experience the ultimate grooming experience. Get groomed.
And so I am back, I'm back, and back. And so why not self-care? Why not invest the time, the energy in you so that you can live the life where you want to be, so you can be there for others. If your life is where you're helping others, so that you can truly be there for others. And then so that you can be there for yourself. Because believe me, there will be a time in your life in which you can make all the telephone calls that you want. No one will be there. And it's not because they don't like you or they don't feel like being bothered. One, it could be so many different reasons, no need of speculating. That's just how life is. So we will always end up coming back to ourselves. And if wherever you are with a higher power, that too. It's the connection with that. If anything else, it's going to always come back to that. So why not self-care? Self-care gets you there a whole lot faster, because when we don't, that's when crises come. Then we have issues with our bodies, sometimes even with our mind, and sometimes even financially, because we're not paying attention. Anything you do not pay attention to, believe me, it comes in your face. So that's one reason why they say, anything you pay attention to grows. So that means that if you're not paying attention to yourself, you don't grow. So why not self-care? Why not self-care? To invest the time and the energy so that you can be well. For those of you who know me and who's been following me for a while, know that, I'm a mental health therapist. And that's one thing that I've come to realize. And I would say it depends on where you work and depends on what you do and things like that. And one thing I can say, and I do want to say, I do think those of you who have taken the path to really be independent and not be part of the system. Because I was thinking, oh, well, let me work for, these agencies so that I can really help the community. Not saying that it didn't help. And I'm glad that I had those experiences. But at the same time, I wasn't able to see early on in my career. I think I had an idea. But one thing I would say, by being in that environment, it kind of made me sick. And when I say that, just meaning sick of not growing, sick of not expanding myself, sick of not being who I truly am. So it had me stuck. Didn't know that. Does it do that to everybody? No. But maybe, yes, I would say maybe in some form or fashion. But usually, for those who do, I said, go off and again, you hear me say go off and do extraordinary things. I said they have one foot in and one foot out. And so, this is why it's so important to invest in yourself because it is sometimes it can be life and death to get down to the nitty gritty. Because whatever it is that you keep repeating, you keep repeating. And sometimes we have some habits that are not good for us. So why not self-care? So you can do and feel the way that you want to. When I look out into the world, and not to say that I have not experienced, that's the other thing. Yes, I have experienced, I would say, I try not to acknowledge it, but there are times that I've had to acknowledge it so that I can move on because, I've tried to be as positive as possible. But yeah, there has been a time that I've experienced depression, something I was going through. Definitely stress, definitely on the verge of burnout. So this is why self-care is so important. So you can be able to identify those things. And there's different levels, even when it comes to depression, you know? And these are things that we need to talk about. That's why self-care. So why not? Self-care allows you to have conversations. Remember, we don't do uncomfortable conversations here. We have conversations because they're just conversations, but they're things that we need to talk about. And so in saying that, let's move on to our next sponsor. Sharon D. Brown with Self Care U Academy. Welcome to Bridging the Gap, which addresses gaps in the mental health system with supportive workshops, transformation education, and actionable self-care strategies for your organization and management team. We focus on going after prosperity instead of going after the problem with our supportive workshops such as bypass mental health emergency room visits, navigate a mental health system with self-care, caring for caregivers with compassion, and managing stress and burnout. Sign up for our next workshop or bring one of our supportive workshops to your team to have confidence, comfort, and courage. Contact us today. That I like to use is Shanti Oil's hair and skin product. Oh my, my, my. One thing I can say, and I don't know if you can see it. You may not be able to see it a little bit. There we go. Yes, yes, yes. And so when it comes to your skin, this is definitely a product that is worth it. Oh my, let me take my glasses off. Oh, mm, 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 mm. I love putting that on my face, especially at night. And so, thank you for those sponsors. Opolis Grooming, Self Care U Academy, and Shanti Oars. So, moving on. Why not Self Care U? One thing I can say is that you're worth it. That's why. Your family is worth it. That's why. When you take care of yourself, you're taking care of your family, you're taking care of your friends. Because when you don't, this is where, a lot of these medical conditions end up because we're not investing in our own selves. Things end up slipping up. We say they're slipping up, but to be honest, when it comes to medical conditions, they're in the making. So what are you making? you know this is why self-care is so important. And with this podcast, it is very dear to my heart. If anything, I'm put it like this: there may be some things I may not have been consistent with, but I have been consistent with this because I really believe that the more that you are exposed to, the more that you learn, the more that you see, especially others are being well, that others have been able to pretty much to work through. I don't always like using the word overcome, it can, that too, but definitely work through their adversities, And see, self care can help with resilience because people think, let me say this. Sometimes you think that resilience is something at the end of something when you've gone through something, the storm. Oh, I have good resilience. I'm strong. But just because you think you're on the other side and something has passed doesn't necessarily mean that that's resilience, you know? It doesn't always mean that. But when you add in self care, because again, self care, I was saying earlier, is that self awareness. It's the sitting in silence. It's the deep rest and it's the action and movement. And so most of the time when we have storms, the adversity of when it comes to things, most of the time when those things come about, most of the times we have no choice. We have no choice in the storm. But when you put in self care, even though there's no choice in like what kind of storm that comes, but it really helps you get through. It allows you to know, to use discernment. I need help, to ask for help and not be ashamed of it. It lets you to know when you need to sit down. It allows you to reflect. It allows you to see things clearly because in a storm, sometimes you can't see anything. And sometimes, it can be very overwhelming. And even though with self care, sometimes it can really stop us in our track. But I would just say it allows you to have a light, your own light. And then if you need to go and get somebody else's light, you can seek that out too. But I always say at the end of the day, it always end up being with us. So why not self care? Why not take care of yourself? Why not take a 2-minute breather? Why not do some hand exercise when you're at your desk? Why not move around, dance, exercise? Why not? Because it's better for you. Because when we don't, the side effects, most of the time they come in a way that we never signed up for, that we never can imagine. So that's why self care is essential to life. So why not take care of yourself? So thank you for joining me for Self Care You episode. And remember to like and share and invest in yourself.